What's up, y'all? I'm back at it once again. This is Koski, a fun day. And you know what I'm saying? I'm just doing this for a home friend of mine, wonderful friend of mine. That actually keep testing me about the scholarship about, Aboriginal Indians and whatnot with people. So I want to show her the scholarship that I got and stuff that I read from. You know what I'm saying? Where I get my scholarship about the stuff I be stating. Now this person right here is Constantine Samuel Rafinesque. He's known as Europe, was a 19th century polymath born near Constantinople, the Ottoman Empire, and self-educated in France. He traveled as a young man across the United States, possibly settling down in Ohio in 1815, where he made notable contributions to botany, zoology, and prehistoric earthworks of North America. He contributed to the study of Mesoamerican linguistics. In addition, he had already completed in Europe. Ravi was an Afrocentric and portrayed as an erratic genius. He's an autodidact who excelled in various fields of knowledge as zoology, botanist, writer, and polyglot. A polyglot is a person who knew many different languages. He spoke many different languages and knew many different customs. He wrote prolifically on diverse topics such as anthropology, biology, geology, and linguistics, but was honored in none of these fields during his lifetime. Among his theories was the ancestors of the Native Americans had migrated through the Bering Straits of Asia through North America, which we have no qualms with, and that the Americas were populated by numerous of black indigenous people at the time of European contact. Now, we're going to look into more of this stuff like that, so we talk about these black Europeans, these black indigenous people at European contact. So just for y'all to know, we're going to come out of this book. It's a short book. It's only about 39, 40 pages. We're going to come out of this book right here, The Ancient Monuments of North and South America. All right. This is one of the books he wrote, from 1830 something. I was going to say 1834, 1836. The reason why I picked this guy right here to set it off with, because he's seen the shit there. You know what I'm saying? When the ground was still unfertile to Caucasian hands. So he's seen a lot of shit that's already been knocked out the box that other cats ain't going to talk about. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I went back and grabbed him. All right, like I said, the ancient monuments of North, of North and South America. This is the second edition, corrected and enlarged with some additions. He wrote it, rewrote it again. 1838. All right, so that's where we're coming from. That's where I went back to. Yes. So let's take our time and crack into this. You know what I'm saying? All right, if the annals of Greeks and Romans have been lost, as have been those of Egypt and Assyria and many other early empires, we should still have the ruins and monuments of Italy and Greece, complete evidence of the existence of those nations, their locations, power, and skills, nay, even the event of their domination, the extent of their domination by their colonial monuments scattered through Syria, Spain, Libya, and Britain. If the British annals should ever be lost and hereby neglected or revolutions, the ruins of the dwellings, churches, and monuments built in the British style reveal the existence or preserve the memory of the wide extent of the British power by the colonial sent from North America to Guyana, from Hindustan, Ceylon, South Africa, and Australia. Thus, it may be both in the Americas, where many nations and empires have dwelt and passed away, risen and fallen by turns, leaving few or no records, except for the traces of their existence, and widely spread the colonies by the ruins of their cities and monuments, standing yet as a silent witness of past domination, great power. It is only a way they have begun to deserve attention of the learned men and historians who have stated by Ola, Humboldt, Juros, and Durio, and some of them chiefly found in the Spanish part of America, as well as scattered accounts of fragments across North America from the lakes of Canada, Louisiana. Although confined in a few places or widely remote localities, they have begun to excite the curiosity of inquiring man and soon deserve the much interest of the famed ruins of Palmyra and Thebes, Babylon, and Persepolis. When future historians shall make known the wonderful and astonishing results they have suggested, or soon form particularly, accurately surveyed and explored the drawn and engraved instead of the hidden and veiled, and hardly notice the detractors of the American. The false historians of the school of D. Paul and Robeson, who have perverted and omit most of the striking features of American history. The most erroneous conceptions prevail as yet concerning them, and the most rude and assured ideas are entertained in our country of their objects in nature. As in modern Greece, every ruin is now Palo Castro or Old Castle for the vulgar peasant or herdsman. Thus, all the ruins of the West are Indian forts of settlers of Western states. And every traveler gazing in random at a few exclaims that nothing is known about them nor their builders. The more refined writers can be very sentimental on their veiled origin, but scarcely anyone that takes the trouble to compare them were elsewhere in and out of the Americas, which would be, however, the only means to obtain an object so desirous of, or to rival their historical riddle. Some writers speak of them as there are only a few mounds, graves scarcely worth notice, yet there are such mounds that are found yet in the Trojan Plains, some by Homer, dating at least 3,000 years ago, and even meaning even earlier in the Trojan War. It still exists to today to baffle our inquiries, while similar mounds exist by the thousands in the plains of Scythia, Tartar, Persia, Arabia, as well as the forests and prairies of North America. Evincing a striking connection of purpose and skills are remote ancient nations of both hemispheres. But our monuments do not merely consist of such mounds of tulens, since we find besides in North America's ruined cities, some in which walled with earth or even stone, real forts of citadels, temples, altars of all shape, but chiefly circular, square, and polygonal, and some elliptical, hexagonal, and octagonal, quite regularly pointing to the cardinal points. We have also traces of buildings, foundations, roads, avenues, causeways, canals, bridges, drones, and of racecourse, pillars, and pyramids, wells, pits, and arenacs. And of these, not a few, but hundreds of them, which are unsurveyed and unyet described as of yet. These, it must be recollected, are north of Mexico in the region of more perfect monuments of the Mexican and Central America, although often in the same style. Whereas in South America, structures that met the most elaborate workmanship of cut and of carved stones with hard cement, vaulted arches, fine sculptures, and even inscriptions. The materials of our northern monuments are often rendered chiefly of earth, clay, gravel, small stones, and even shells. Near seashores, sometimes the piles are beaten in rammed clay, as in Peru, unbaked bricks, and rift stones. The facts may confirm that the Mexican tradition stating that the nations of Anuak, now Mesemo, dwell further north in our fruitful western period, where wood was abound and stones were scarce. Therefore, they built their cities and temples of wood, raising altars and platforms of walls and entrenchment of earth or clay. Dreams and hypotenuse upon Americans have amused the learner, the age, and attempted to account for the origin of the Americas and their monuments, and they have neglected to compare them with the monuments and languages of other nations scattered across the earth, only taking a partial view of them, comparing a few fragments of 2 or 3 nations of the region. A few words of centennial part in the actual languages of the writers and historians have found an enormous mistake, more found systematic errors than hidden truth. They indulge, without due consideration, in the mere dreams of systems based on a few facts that are overruled by hundreds of other known facts unknown to them or neglected to be known. It will be useless and tedious to refute again such false systems that have been refuted and upset by each other. It may, however, be needful and perhaps to mention that most of the serve and warn against them, or show their improbability or impossibility. They may be called for distinction's sake, the Jewish system, the Monogamous system, and the American system. Among these first names is the one of the oldest, and at the same time yet its powerful hold on many minds. It describes the whole American population with 100 languages and 1,000 dialects, and may add ruins and monuments to the Jews, either of the 10 dispersed tribes who are not Jews but Israelites, or of Solomon times in the voyage while the Jews began their existence as such after his death, or of the piratical times of the antecedent to their existence when they were only Abraham, whom we miscall Hebrews, or going further back in the times of Noah and the Peleid, when not even Abraham had an existence. It is proven that the American nation did not possess the use of a plow, iron, alphabets, or a 7-day-a-week alphabet, which no Jew nor Hebrew descendant can have forgotten. The American language having such much more affinity with the Sanskrit, Greek, Latin, Celtic, Berber, Persian, Turkish, and language with the older modern Hebrew and Arabic. The Jews of Ariu, who began 2,400 years ago, were not navigators, and therefore it's evident they cannot have come to America and produced here 2,000 nations in a tribe of this vast continent. Nay, not a single one of them, perhaps. The Mongolic opinion, lately revived by Rankin, is the most discouraging of all, since it ventures to assert seriously and derive all these nations and languages from the late colonies of the Mongols of less than 1,000 years ago, who came over America over the ice, bringing with them tame elephants of sport that have since become fossil elephants and mammoths buried in our divisional or individual soil. To state these absurdities is sufficient refutation. Every man of reading and scientific knowledge will perceive the impossibility. Guido and Josiah Priest have lately revived the opinion of the same dreaming philosophers who asserted America was once the cradle of mankind, right? So this is where this opinion comes from. Guido and Josiah Priest, was trying to be revived again, had lately revived the opinion of some dreaming philosophers who asserted that America was the cradle of mankind, or one of them instead of Central Asian. Guido allows, however, that the Caucasian race of men to be distinct, but he says, the human race of America, I must assert, is the most ancient on the globe. Here he goes to state that the primeval civilization of America must be as great and indefinite antiquity, leaving, however, no probable monuments, but sending colonies to civilize Japan and China. It is not preposterous. This is not preposterous. It is not this preposterous. Under are the proofs either from tradition, languages, or monuments, or other sources. Meantime, Josiah Priest, in his compilation of American antiquities, has boldly asserted that Noah's Ark rested in America. Whereabout? And he had 3 sons, one white, one red, and one black. What was the color of their wives? From whom are they descended of 3 races of mankind who colonized the whole earth, leaving, however, neither white nor black in America? The great incongruity of these bold assertions and these definite origins of government are equally probable, but nevertheless is improbable that they will find now or hereafter their advocates, since the asserted Jewish origin of all Americans has still many believers, and Rankin even has perhaps some supporters. So both of these theories he shot down. He shot it down, so he shot down the Jewish part or the Hebrew part, and he shot down the Mongolian part. To admit that America was only the cradle of mankind is based off no evidence whatsoever. I'll repeat this again. They knew this back in 1838. To admit that America was the only cradle of mankind is based off of no evidence whatsoever, either historical, physiological, or monumental. While on the contrary, all the monuments and the records of the Eastern continent trace this cradle to Central Asia. At the time, that's what they thought it was. To suppose America is one of the human cradles is certainly worth inquiry, but such cradle must be either sought for and located somewhere, either in volcanic mountains or swampy plains of South America, nor the frigid wilds of North America appears to calculate to offer it. Others have been thought of in Africa and Australia, but seldom in the spirit of seeking truth. Rather, so he's trying to say North America, where we know now is Africa. Some people still make a case for Australia. And one favoring of the superstition, supporting the favorite doctrine. Such speculation ought to at least be based on better foundations than mere assertions. Evidence of physiological proofs are required before they can be listened to. And no total and complete diversity of mankind in every aspect has been found anywhere to support a theory of plurality of human species in the cradles. Europe and Africa have been repeatedly invaded by migration from Asia. In America, such migration has been traced north and east by the Atlantic Ocean or northwest from the Bering Straits. All right, let me put this again. In America, such migrations can be traced north and east by the Atlantic Ocean. What's east of the Atlantic Ocean from Brazil is Africa, or northwest of the Bering Straits, while we have not the faintest indication of invasion from Asia from America. The only traditional kind of invasion of Europe and North Africa by the Antilles, probably the Americans over the Great Atlantis, was this continent is involved in doubt. Besides, these barren lands were deemed Neptunian colonies. Although it must be confessed that almost every instance the continents to America appear to have various inhabitants who have still earlier remote colonies if they were not indigenous. But the seashores of North America from Labrador to Carolina were deserted at the very late period comparatively when the Western tribes came there. The actual purpose does not extend to all the details of these deep inquiries, but chiefly confined to ascertain and prove similarities of the oldest primitive monuments of both hemispheres, whereby the connection of Covell and a similar civilization was invented to the earliest times before the record of history. This evidence, which may be called monumental, drives into the gloomy pages of the past, hence descends our modern reaching and understanding by gradual links. While the physiological evidence spoken of modern language and fragments or children of older primitive languages ascend by their means to the equality of both combining, both therefore to complete the history of mankind, and the animals and traditions cease to lead us to quite weird obscurity. These combined bring more certainty into the scrutinizing mind than merely physical features of man and their complexions. So fluctuate and mingle, but neither of them solve the question of the actual origin of mankind or the cradle of mankind. If indeed monuments and language of various parts of the earth are quite different, and the features of the colors of man likewise distinct, there we might suppose there have been several species and cradles of mankind. But it is not so. Features and language are variable and mingling in our own time, so diversified everywhere as to baffle the pre-conclusion to complete inoculation. Monuments are also, after so much more like in remote parts, although divisible in the styles in various ages. The stages of improvement, they do evidence a great similarity of co-values of the ages and stages of civilization. So the more you start off with something simple, then the more you build up, so that your civilization, you know what I'm saying, is going down. Like Egypt when they had like the flat mastaba, and they build a step, then they start building up step pyramids, and they got the step pyramid, and they got the pointed pyramid. To prove this great fact and important results that might be the subject of large work, we have heard Mr. Warden have been engaged in periods in something of this kind. His work has not reached us, but when it has been completed, it shall be one of the step forwards to the elucidation in this deep theme. Many facts are yearly involved in America in new research undertaken and discoveries made, while in Africa, Libya, Arabia, Persia, India, and even the oceanic world of Australia and Polynesia, similar discoveries are progressing and new facts are being made into the fold. Many new and unexpected allegories with American inquiries. Of the early monuments of China, Tatar, and Tibet, we know little or nothing that they're in the very heart of Asia, the real cradle of arts and science, if not mankind itself. Our learned travelers have not yet penetrated the most interesting regions of the globe and is thus most almost unknown to us. This subject is therefore in a progressive state of inquiries, and the future ages will add to their too. Although a number of ruins and monuments crumble to disappear under the plow or the leveling energy of man, little respecting the structures of iniquity enough to be explored sites will be discovered and surveyed. Some of our rudest monuments appear indestructible, like the lofty mountains of earth that withstood, like the heavy pyramids of Egypt, the lapse of countless ages. Some now appear covered with a dress of new soil or a Davidian coat as they were antediluvian. Meantime, we have endeavored to collect and compare facts already known and seduce. That therefore some useful instruction to satisfy curiosity and gratify the greed to send upon the origin of everything of mankind above all. The most proper and obvious way to elucidate American antiquities and monuments will be to classify them, which shall, however, never been attempted and always been noticed to elucidate loosely and random and also a general geographical arrangement of the regions where they're found. Such classifications might be based on either on their style, form, or material, or ultimately the ascertained scopes of. Sorry about the computer being slow right now. Ascertaining scopes of purposes, which they are now being doubtful or doubted. They might be divided into classes of series easy to distinguish between themselves, while all finding equivalents or similar structures in the Eastern continent, an important factor to be kept in mind. There are out of America some structures not found in it, but there are none that cannot be detected somewhere else, either in Europe, North Africa, or Asia, Polynesia, or among the earliest monuments or ruins of the rooted structures. None of the latest styles and improved architecture, such as the colonnades, roof temples, Buddhist and Muhammad temples, Gothic or modern churches, fortification with large towers or bastions, are met in America, being a convincing proof that all of American structure were of a previous date or earlier style than these later. But even some of the very ancient Eastern structures are lacking in America and only found in modified form. Thus, to the Sinopian structure has been denied to America, they are not quite lacking either. Although in the Turonian style, the rulers of the huge unshapen blocks of stone put together has not been met with the other Colopian styles found on the rough polygon or irregular squared stones. The most common, however, is the rough flat stones put together pretty much by drywalls to this day. If we do not exactly find this continent a Celtic-style Stonehenge and circles of stone scattered across Persia to Scotland, we meet several other branches of Celtic style, standing rough in pillars, massive altars, circles of earth, fortified villages similar to those in Britain. Similar to those in Britain called Roman camps, although no such camps were found where the Romans went out of Celica. And American camps are certainly not Roman. Whether the Celtic race came to America has been doubted, but it may be deemed doubtful yet. There are two strong arguments against it, at least the lack of the monuments like Stonehenge, temples, and Celtic structures of language or regular series of interposed ideas not being widely spread in America, and chiefly found in Brazil and Florida, where nations of another lineage dwell. So he's saying in Brazil and Florida is a whole other group of people down there, not the same ones as in North America. So you're saying you gotta pay attention to that. He's saying it's a whole different group. I'm gonna back this up in another video because the Spanish said the same thing when they first touched down in the 1500s, early 1500s. It said it was two different groups of people down there. Yet it is pretty certain, notwithstanding, nearly all the writers omit or deny that the old Celts had intercourse or trade in the Americas, once even from Gaul. It has lately been discovered by Sir A. Brooks that the Celtic monuments in Morocco, as he describes as large mound with a circle of stones around it, in northwest of Africa must be in the very early times have been one of the regions whence the Atlanteans once came. And this is an historical fact that their prosperity yet lived in Africa from Mount Atlantis to Nubia. Those are all black people, by the way. You know what I'm saying? From Mount Atlas to Nubia. Mount Atlas started about Chad, Nubia, southern Egypt. Those are all black people. Their language structure is Celtic and Semitic structure. They gave the name to the Atlantic Ocean. And this name is one of the few that have been traced to our times. Africa and Spain once joined. Even the Berbers have a tradition of it. It's the same nation filled Libya and Spain, the Bastils or the Astruls of Spain, or the Tuzla-Hatera as in Central Asia. In Central America were also known as the Turlos, the Tananati, while the Canaanite of Spain were akin to the Antilles of Libya, the Hines of Greece. And the Greeks have stated that the Atlanteans or the Atlantotoi were forming a united nation of Atlantis, of Atlas, and Antoianism. Pyramids exactly similar to those in Egypt, and pillar temples similar to those of Thebes are not met within America. Let me repeat this once again. Pyramids exactly those of Egypt, and pillar temples similar to those in Thebes are not met within America. But we have their equivalents of pyramidal tokens of Akkad and of temples of Peru, similar to the pyramidal temples of Assyria and India. So, with this statement right here, there is no pyramids here. The only pyramids you'll find in America, in Egypt, in Africa, period. You know what I'm saying? He's saying you're going to find you can't even compare them. It's comparing apples to oranges. Now, you want to compare India to Peru, you can do that, or Syria, or like I told Homegirl, you compare Java. It's the same stuff in Java and Tahiti, in the Pacific Ocean. You can compare that to Mexico. But Egypt is on a whole new different stratosphere. In all cases, the materials depend pretty much on the locality and the kind of stones or proper materials at hand. Although often carried from a distance, requiring joint labor of thousands of men during several years. But it has been ascertained that these were old inhabitants in the west of Europe, and then that these very Celts, Canaanites, and Latins, the Creantans, a superior race that erected an annual monumental pillars at Karnak in Brittany, and the Constantine or the Sinites that dwell in the southwest of Spain and Portugal, raided the vassals of the outcasts of Celtics, called the Canaanite, I'm not even going to say that, whose prosperity is not yet extinct. The Escarot are called the Basques or the Gastons. Formerly, the Calabarians were the Ghana of the Ebro River. They had great affinity of languages with many American nations. The Atlantic monuments may be distinctly traced from Syria to Greece to Libya to Morocco. Immense mounds have been found as far south as the River Nun. Of the Atlanteans, their countries and deeds and lores, and much has been written, and many more remains to be elucidated. It can be traced eastward, as far as the very center of Asia, once called Turan, through Scythia in the north of Persia, and Persia in the south. To the utmost verge of Africa and the Europe westlands. Next to the famed island of Atlantis, or rather the Megaton Atlantis, which was America. The smaller Atlantis seated midway between the two continents and was supposed to have sunk into the volcanoes of the Azore and the Canary and other African islands that explode. The American nation connected with these chiefly widely scattered in America, and chiefly were the earliest monuments to spread, even as far as Sicily to the south, Guyana to the east, under the name of Truros, and northward as far as Ohio and Illinois. It is easy to trace the passing and analogy of the language between the early language of the South Europe and North African, and the Chilean and the Peruvians, Mustang Haitians, Tonans, and Toltecs, and the other preeminent nations of this continent. By useful purpose of generalization, we may collect the following important results concerning our monuments. They are scattered all over America at 45° north to D south of the equator, occupying 90° of latitude, which is nowhere else the case. They chiefly occupy a flexible view of our Great Lakes to Mexico, Guatemala, Panama, Cuenca, Peru, and Chile. There are few to none in Boreal America, the eastern shores as far as Virginia, and the western as far as California, nor in Achilles, Ghana, Oman, Moran, Brazil, Paraguay, or Patagonia. Although some of these regions have not been properly explored and may hereafter have offered some likewise. Those known from our eastern shore of Achilles in Brazil are a few particular character, distinct from the general style of others. In New Hampshire, pay attention to this part right here. In New Hampshire, an essential characterization of formations, of cremastations, have been formed as in Peru, but not a stone nor shaped like stars. All right. So in New Hampshire, they found some shit. In Massachusetts, the inscribed rocks are met with those of Pennsylvania east of the mountains are rude and small, and such they are as far as Virginia and Carolina. In the Achilles or the West Indies, they are chiefly caves, temples, and tombs. In Brazil, we know of but a few, but they are stone and in particular style. Therefore, the main monuments in the structure occupy only one half of America or less. They are mostly thickly scattered in the fertile regions near the river from the Ohio to Florida, from Missouri to Texas, from the Sonora to Honduras, from Bogota to Chile, being often on a high ground in mountains, tablelands, valley, and seldom in low plains. Such are most interesting by number and extensively spread in locations. Yet there are among them various ages and styles. The Floridan, the North American, the Mexican, the Anhoc, the Guatemalan, the Tonsan, the Peruvian, or the Inca. Series are all somewhat different and mangled with others of the earliest photos of various ages. In Peru, the Prado is the oldest fortified cities in the standard form of the earliest ages. The ruins of Tanicano with sculptures of a remote period. The ruins of Chima of yet another style, all different from the style of the Incas. So you're trying to say the Incas didn't build this, all right? And in Central America, the cave temples and the fortified cities and the palaces of the Tilas or the pyramid and the towers, often real eras, often many eras and styles. In North America, we have at least three great eras and styles of monuments. The first, or most rude, somewhat similar to that of the Axtial excavation small houses in this. So the name of the styles down, he's styling down on what's around here in the monuments. Although so rude is found until very lately, as our log house styling is lasting with us with large stone buildings. Primitive styling using earth and wood or rough stones for large and fine structured temples. The most refined and plain cut stones or ornaments are rare in the north, but becoming more common towards Mexico. We may assume ultimately the result of the Americans had no monuments of Grecian or Roman structures, except as such belonging to the primitive Italy or Greece as described to their ancestors, such as the different races of Pelagic, Corans, or Hedons, Tons, and Tones, and other similar old tribes and nations long before previous to the Roman power and the Grecian refinement. So what he's saying in this paragraph right here, that we know we find none of this stuff like Greeks and Rome. The Greeks didn't build that shit. That shit was already built up there before the Greeks got there. Sheikh Anadia talks about this too. And many people don't know that. When you see all them temples in Greece and Herodotus and all them motherfuckers didn't build that shit. You know what I'm saying? They know that. They came over and took over and mixed in with the people and killed off the people. Then they got the credit for that shit. You understand me? That's highly important to read, remember in history. It shocked me too when I found out. Like the Greeks didn't build that? Nope, they did not build that. And a lot of historians say that shit too. None of our other monuments was like the best Celtic structures, but rather similar in the earliest or ruder Celtic style, if not perhaps previous, such as standing on rock stone, rough pillars, and built plaster tenements and mounds, circular angular areas and temples. None were like the Egyptian temples and pyramids. Our American pyramids being rather in stages as in Ethiopia, Assyria, and India, on huge platforms bearing temples and branches and palaces like Babylon or Persepolis, but by no means so ornamented with such a huge stones. None would like to rent it or Titanic style, rather a modification of it. None like the slender pillars and the round towers of India, Persia, or Ireland. Ireland's another spot you gotta check out too. You know what I'm saying? None like the modern structures of the Christian, Mohammedans, Buddhist, Chinese, Gothic, or Arabic style. No domes were found, and this interference cannot be traced to any of the religions of America by that particular structure. Ireland's another place you gotta check out too. You know what I'm saying? They got a lot of ancient structure there. You know what I'm saying? They don't talk about. While on the side, we can assert to prove that American monuments was more or less like two. The oldest monuments, square and circular platforms of all shapes and sizes, some as large as hills or even natural hills cut to the shape for altars to support the temples and stage pyramids, are found from Cilicia to Ireland to France, Spain, Italy, Greece, Russia, from Morocco to Senegal, Libya and Abyssinia, and Asia from Anatolia to the Trojan Plain, to Syria to Arabia, Persia, Medina, around the Caspian, and even India, Tartary, and China. Also the mores of Polynesia, all which are where the primitive orders of early men or their imitations of later times in China, as in China. Or like cave temples that are scattered from Ireland to India, found in Greece, Assyria, Egypt, Persia, and sometimes like excavated cities of the troglodyte nations found in Sicily, Crete, Cyprus, Syria, Arabia, Kabul, and Benin. Or like the massive structures of stones of the early stages of the or the conical towers of Sardinia and the Barbaric Islands, with the angular towers of Libya, imitated in Peru, Brazil, Guatemala, and Cabo. Or like the fortified cities of the oldest ages of Persia, India, Arabia, and Turin, imitated in Peru and Central America, often in eccentric enclosures with curious shapes and sometimes with arcs and citadels in metropolis like Persia, Greece, and Etruria, or like the vast enclosure of sacred areas of temples with particular cells or holy recesses, shrines, oracles, as in India, China, Tibet, formerly in Syria, Egypt, Assyria, and even like the old temples of Mecca and Solomon, which are found in Peru, southern Mexico, and North America as far as Missouri. Where most were wood in the first temples of Solomon and Dophos, and yet in China were very often. Then it's evident the American monuments are similar to the oldest and earliest of the Eastern continent, and most of the modern ones that are yet to be built on the primitive models. We have some of the latest incidents of where even in Europe, where the huge Mount of Waterloo was erected after the battle of that name. Grecian buildings are often built now in Europe and America. The Gothic style has traveled from Arabia to Europe and is not quite yet out of use. The national altars of the Celestial Empire at Peking in China are exactly similar to those of the earliest times found in America. All right, the national altars of the Celestial Empire in Peking, China are yet exactly similar to those of the earliest time in America. Architects in various styles has employed for monuments, temples, and cities have undergone several changes of improvement from the rude imitations of a tent or a cottage or a hill, that of a pyramid, towers, pillars, colonnades, caves, etc. From the regular enclosures to squares, circles, octagons, forming heaps of earth, forming ditches, canals, to regular wall excavations. Styles of building are fluctuating with the nations, and at times in taste and religion are more occasionally revived or yet improved. Yet they have a certain duration, location, or age in origin somewhere. Nevertheless, they may be happening to be blended by the same people or armed modern civilization amidst yet one of the tents and camps in the log houses, shed, the hut, the cottage, the house of wood, bricks and stone, palaces and temples, theaters, capital, and Negro huts. We must not be surprised to see the same continuity and mixture in various parts. Remember that part of Negro huts? That's the next important because it's about to start dropping bombs of America in a former time. Many of these tribes followed 300 years ago the style of 3,000 years ago, as partly done in China. Everything on Earth follows a universal law of terrestrial mutations, monuments, and arts, as well as languages and human figures. They rise and fall like nations, mingle and blend with modern English nations, and languages form out of many others. What diversity is in any one of our cities in the complexion and statures of the features of the men. There were more difference between some of our men of our own races. There are more difference between some of the men of our own races than between Negro, red, or white men. White, black, and bay horses are not particular species, nor are men of different hues, hairs, eyes, and noses. Inscriptions are monuments also, and have the highest value when we cannot read them. Some of these will be hereafter, since those of Egypt have long deemed inapplicable and have at last found interpreters. So with it will be the future day with those in America. Few have been known as of yet, but there are many arranged of monumental regions. Those sculptures in temples and palaces of the Oakland near Occoquan are not the only ones. Several in caves upon rocks involve rude paintings and symbolic meaning to which none are detaining a clue. Several nations of North America had a language of sign made or written, although known sometimes to be known a few. Sign or symbol prevailed in Oregon to Chile, or else as in China, were in use and recorded, and the color strings or knots known as wampum delta collars. However, all of these, however, appear to be belong to the first attempt of mankind to perpetuate the idea that seemed to have preceded the all alphabets in India, Persia, and Europe, and the vocal signs of China, although some of these date to the early ages. Tuzla, Okakala, and Okum had glyphs, or a kind of combination alphabet, where the letters of the alphabet were blended into words as are anagrams. in not a serial order. A few traces of alphabets have been, however, found in South America on the River Colorado and elsewhere which have not yet attained sufficient attention. That the Quran given by Humboldt and nearly the paraplegic or destruction traces of the runic signs were found in the Carolinas. Other signs have occasionally been met in North Carolina and North America, but neglected. Painted symbols or hieroglyphics, or sometimes abridged outlines of them, are used chiefly in Anac to Puancho to Panama in North America, from Florida to New Mexico, also in Cuba, Haiti, Yucatan, Bogota, Peru, and the Panos, Nucles, and other nations. Even without any means of conveying ideas, could even America, as in Scythia and Africa, use emblems or objects which a particular meant was applied to trace rude pictures of them on trees or rocks. The monuments connected with the pictures and emblems. Hieroglyphics scattered in the caves, on rocks, on cliffs, and above human reach are very curious and ought to be collected and sought for explanation and explained. They will in all parts of historical events. The rock at Sultan and others have long been exercising ingenuity of antiquities, and perhaps a little more purpose than yet, since the inscriptions have been ascribed to by turns to the Phoenicians, the Jews, and the Atlanteans, Norwegians, or even our modern tribes. It may not be properly understood until all the graphic systems. Now he's talking about the writing, you know what I'm saying? All the graphic systems in America are studied and explained. The late successful attempt of the Cherokees. All right, listen to this part right here. The late successful attempt of the Cherokees to attain a symbolic alphabet for their language proved that Americans not avoided graphic ingenuity, but it was late. You know what I'm saying? They didn't really get an alphabet to the white man bumped into them. You understand? Well, it was very late. But the consensus of mounds, graves, and caves are also interesting in affording us a clue to their purpose in the arts of their time when raised or inhabited. Many kinds of implement, ornaments, tools, weapons, and vase have been found everywhere with their displaying skill and taste. Idols and sculptures have given us features and religious ideas of some nations. Astronomical stones and calendars have been found, recovered, and lost again, revealing a particular system of astronomy and chronology. We possess the complex calendars of the Thompson, Mexicans, Chibans, most are Peruvians, and the Taladegas of North America. The Talas, they lived in lower Mississippi Valley, you know, Arkansas around there. Arkansas going south. A decaton of 144 parts in hieroglyphs are found on the banks of Ohio. Let me repeat this again. A decaton with 144 parts in hieroglyphs were found on the banks of the Ohio River, and since has been lost or hidden. Humboldt's layer on American astronomy and the results coincide with those of antiquity to make the American systems quite different from the Oriental, Hindu, Jewish, Egyptian, Greek, Roman, and Celtic system of the days, month, zodiac, and cycles. While there are more than those of the Tibet, China, Japan, Libya, and Etruria, at any rate, the American system was an interior of an mission by the weeks of 7 days, bringing forth the lumination, and each day dictated to a planet and sabbatical observers of the zoos based thereon. The American weeks were 3, 5, 9, and even 13 days, as in some parts of Asia and in Africa and in Java, Tibet, China, and Guinea. The week of the 5 days appeared the most ancient of all and the most natural, including exactly 73 weeks in the solar year, 79 in the lunar year. That of the 3 days was only a decimal part of the month. In China, the long week of 15 days prevailed, as yet being a half a lunaration or a month. Accounts of monuments with dry descriptions and measures are often more uninteresting and unless with figurines and explanations to illustrate their natural nature and designs. The writer, having surveyed many American sites of the ancient cities, may hereafter describe and explain some of them with or without figures. He has also collected an account of similar monuments all over the earth, and will be able to elucidate and thereby our own monuments. Meantime, whoever wishes to become acquainted with such have been made known in the United States alone, and must consult a host of writers who have been described a few, such as Soto, Faravox, Barton, Belknap, Lewis, Conover, Clinton, Atwater, Breckenridge, Noddle, McDougall, Bartram, Priest, Beck, Madison, James, Schoolcraft, Keating. An appendix of Ancient History of Kentucky will be found in my catalog made in 1824. Such finding in the task requires you to amend the hand of a capital applier. You must attain a complete knowledge of what has been done already on this historical project. Philadelphia, September 1838. Now, this is the part I really want to get down to is the additions. So he breaks it down. I should just start out with this off rip, but I wanted to read it to you for the scholarship part. But this was the additions. This is the conclusions he came up with. All right, the additions. Number one, Mexican antiquities have lately been illustrated in many splendid works by Alio, Kingsborough, Diplax, Burden, St. Priest, Nava, Inca, and Gaudra, and Waldeck. In a clever review of these works, in the Foreign Review, it is distinctly asserted that the Tulicans, or the people of Tule, or American Atlanteans, were quite a different people from the later Mexican tribes, that their monuments are equal in interest to those of Egypt and Syria, with colossal and even Columbian structure, which agrees with my former statement, and I have traced them in America from Missouri to Chile. But their central seats and empires from Mexico to Guanaco. Their great temples at Oberlin near Berlin was equal to Solomon Temple. Their mythology is quite particular and Asiatic. Their main deity was Hakaku, the first cause, comparable to the Akanaki of the Syrian simile, and their astronomy was antediluvian, a year of 360 days or 18 months of 20 days. Number two, the first monuments of the United States may be ascribed to the Talagrass, a northern branch of these Atlanteans. The oldest monuments of Peru long before the Incas were those of Brazil and Arcano are related thereto, and were erected by the southern tribes of the Atlanteans of the Talahats. Number three, the late work of Harcourt, 1838, all these ancient monuments of America, Africa, and Europe, and Asia are ascribed to the Archites saved at the flood of Noah, which was also a previous opinion of McCullough and his American researchers. But some academics are seeking in America traces of the Anamites. They still have a big Bible preference, you know what I'm saying? This is 200 years back. They still had a big Bible preference, as you see in this thing. Number four, the Talawans of the 200 nations in the languages of the Deacon of southern India are probably Atlantic and Tonic, or Tari, descend from these nations and sent colonies further east in ancient times of Melanesia. Let me read this again. The Talawas are the 200 nation in the languages of the Deacon of southern India are probably of the Atlantic or the Tonic, descendant of the Tonic descent. And these nations sent colonies further east in ancient times of Polynesia and perhaps as far as America. Yet the bulk of oceanic population from Madagascar to Japan and Australia is of Hamitic descent. All right? By the regular structure of all these languages, while this seldom happens in America, as in China and the Tartary. So he's telling you right now, number four addition that he added onto it, that the language of the Deacon is primarily Atlantic, and these nations sent colonies further east in the early times of Polynesia, and perhaps as far as America. So he does on the Pacific side. Yet the bulk of the oceanic population from Madagascar to Japan and Australia is of Hamitic descent, and by the regular structure of all language, while this certainly happens in America as in China and the Tartary. So he's telling you these are Hamites that did that part. Number five, the later attempt of tracing analogy in the origin of descent between the Chinese and the Polynesian nation are quite vain. The Chinese nations are evidently Asiatic and primitive akin to the Tatars and the Turks, the Monoturians. Their language had the same inverse position and monolithic structure. The idea of Harcourt to deem the Chinese the real Semitic stock of languages is worthy of inquiry. He has proved that the Hebrew was in reality a Hamitic language. He has proven that Hebrew was in reality a Hamitic language, the prosperity of Abraham having adopted the dialect of the Assyrian and the Canaanites. But the Arabic language and nations so akin thereto must then also be Hamites, and that the old Arabians were alone Semites. So it's going back to Africa now. As I said earlier, they use a Bible thing, so they're going to take it back to, where they got to take it back to. Him being the youngest son. Number 5. Meanwhile, the Tuareg or the Japhet nations and languages, IFH meaning widely spread is our Japhet, should be the real Turans and Atlanteans, including the Medians, Caucasians, Hindus, Pelasians, Thracians, Slovenians, Goths, and nearly 2/3 of the American nations, the most civilized and powerful of them. But it appears to me that the Celtics and Caribbeans were like the instructions in the Phoenicians of Hamite origin. All right? It again. Meantime, the Tuareg or the Japhet nations and languages, IFH, I don't know where they get that from. Hopefully somebody put that in the inbox, meaning widely spread is our Hafet, should be the real Turans and Atlanteans, including the Medians, Caucasians, Hindus, Pelasians, Thracians, Slovakians, Goths, and nearly 2/3 of the American nations, the most civilized and powerful of them. But it appears to me that the Celtics and Caribbeans were like the instructions in the Phoenicians of Hamitic origin. It is strange that all that brown. So he's telling right there when he sees Celtic, like Bobby Hemmings says Celtic is meaning Kush or Celtic, you know what I'm saying? It's meaning Kush. It's strange that all that brown or black nations of Africa, Asia, and Oceania were also of similar descent. All right. Number 7, in my work on the Asian American nations, it may be seen that we were the oldest. Let me read this again. In my work on the ancient American nations, may be seen which were the oldest or the earliest in the Americas, to which other nations elsewhere have intimately connected. I have proved that 2 great nations of America, the Iraq, including the Haitians and the tribe from Florida to Patagonia, with the Czech or the old Chileans having a branch in Chile to Brazil, were certainly akin in language with the ancient Greeks, Italians, Spaniards, and rather or other ancestors of the pelagic or the Caribbean nations. Number 8, the American Atlanteans of North America, the Talanogs and the Tolls, and the continent of Anak in the center and Central America, the Musaks of Tonga and Peru, with the ancient Peruvians of a mixed origin, were certainly the most civilized nation of this continent, as well as the monuments to prove it. Their languages are Japhetic or Turan structure and have many affinities with Central Asia, the Caucasians, the Illyrians, the Slavonians, but some also with African Hellenians or ancient minor Libyans, Guineans, or Shellas. Some of these groups. Number 9, the Hamitic groups of language and nations in South America was widely spread from Guinea to Paraguay and all over Brazil. It is quite monosyllabic, with the Hamitic or African structure, having affinity all over Africa, whereas highly expected Kwe or the Haida nation of Chinese or turned descended by structure of speech. Now we know 200 years later that the Chinese are part of the Hattans. It's the other way around. The Hattans are the original people of the planet. You know what I'm saying? But he wasn't that far off, Number 10. In North America, 4 widely different stocks of nation had the Hamitic structure. The Floridian, including the Choctaws, the Wichitans or the Missourians, the Ockers and the Iroquois, and the Umasan spread across the whole Borno or Borno North America. That's North America. Borno America. Borno means north. This last stock is evidently akin to the North Asiatic Hamites, such as the Finns, Slavs, and the Aran. The Wantons of the Aran appear also Asiatic, akin to the Turans and other northern Tatars, but the Choctaws with the Natchez, Seminoles, and the Kin tribe appear to the of Eastern descent and find their parents in North Africa. 11. In my work of historical physiology, and the restoration of ancient nations and languages presumed lost, I have been able to restore many parts of the world, but chiefly America and Europe, in the same manner as I once did for the Haitian nation and a language where many historical links will be evolved and traced. My process is similar to that of Culver and a modern paleontologist who restore distinct animals by fragment of their bones. I do the same with distinct languages by fragments of their words and elements discovered and put together. 12. In the result of monumental evidence combined with physiology and decry and assertion, whatever, to discover in the nation's ancient history by mutual help in accordance with the accurate comparison of both hemispheres, we certainly enabled to advance archaeological historical knowledge of Lure, beyond which most sanguine blood expectation. Sanguine means blood. The paths open become easy to pursue, much therefore will be achieved by the following comparative success in discarding all conventional symptoms. Ian. Now, the main parts I wanted, to really get off, and I had to breathe to build it up, is how he admitted that all this stuff was Hamites. Ham meaning, Africa, whoop-de-whoop. He admitted it, that all these are Hamites. You know what I'm saying? The darker nations. We're going to go to a quick view of it. This last is evident to the Northern Asiatic Hamites, such as the Flynn Slavs, whoop-de-whoop, the North, up there, near Lapland and stuff like that. The Natchez, the Choctaws, the Seminoles, and the Kin tribes appear at the eastern descent and find their parentage in North Africa. Does it all go back to there? Even though he still want to fight us in as Asia, which probably was the literary and the scientific hardline of the day, he came out and said most of this stuff was just African. In North America, 4 widely different stocks of nation had a Hamitic structure. The Floridians, which I went before. The Guardian group of languages and nations in South America was widely spread from Ghana to Paraguay and all over Brazil. It is quite monolithic with a Hamitic or African structure, having its infinities all over Africa, well except partly the Kwa or the Kwahata nation. So he admitted that most of the stuff over here was African, people-wise and the structure-wise it was built. This is according to him. Now, this, he, like this one right here, so the black nation of African, Asian, Oceania was similar descent. When he brings off point number 5, you know what I'm saying? Where he says the real Tyrians and the Atlanteans, including the Medians, Caucasians, Hindus, Pelasians, all them groups, the Goths, and nearly 2/3 of the American nations, the most civilized and most powerful of them. You know what I'm saying? Because the white folks try to claim that. But it appears to me that the Celts and the Iberians were like the Inscriptions and the Phoenicians. The Inscriptions is the people that was there before the Romans was there. All right? Romans had to defeat them before they could take over the peninsula. That's when the first people they had to defeat. The Inscriptions and the Phoenicians are the Hamitic origin. It's strange that all that brown and black, right? Because the deeper you go in history, the more black there gets. Nations of Asia, of Africa, Asia, and Oceania of a similar descent. So he gives all credit back to the Hamitic nation or the Kushite Empire. So yeah, this is some scholarship wise. I mean, many people don't mess with this dude because he talk like this and whatnot, blase Skippy. But you hear some like old cats like Dr. Winters using, that's where I got it from. Shout out to Dr. Clyde Winters, he's my guy. My elder too, what I'm saying? Much love to him. But like I said, most people won't use stuff like this, but this is a scholarship we give from way back from 1838. Also, too, there's a lot of books that the Smithsonian did on this era because he was naming off a lot of authors and stuff like that. You want to go a little bit more deeper to that. And they tell you what they found in the mounds. And what they found in the mounds was backing up what my man said. The cities and stuff like that, a lot of these cities, Cincinnati, Detroit, Philadelphia, New York City, all the major cities on the East Coast were basically old-ass cities prior to all this stuff, prior to the white man coming. You understand me? So this is something to look forward to. But really, in reality, the reason why I did this video, because you don't hear no even Hebrew, no so-called Aboriginal person spitting like this. They just say my grandma said or some dumb shit like that. Well, I'm coming from a book right here, a short book that tell you something different. That these people come from Africa, whoop de whoop. They got a Hamitic language. You know what I'm saying? They got all this stuff that that comes from Africa. You know, like I said, the Tarzan nations in the language of the Deccan of southern India are probably Atlantic or Turkic descent, and these nations sent colonies further east in ancient times to Polynesia and perhaps as far as America. Yet the bulk of the oceanic population from Madagascar to Japan and Australia is of Hamitic descent by the regular structure of all language, while this seldom happens in America as in China and the Tartary. So there you go. You know. Anyway, this is a Koski Fun Day. Much love. Subscribe to the channel. Click the like button. Hit me up. Let you know what you think about this stuff. I just threw my hand in the ring because a homegirl just was always talking junk, and she's a good friend of mine about being Aboriginal and stuff like that. I'm saying it's the same stuff as the African presence worldwide. You can't escape it. No matter how hard you try, you can't escape it. Even your customs you read up here came from Hamites, Africans. Peace.